All right, everybody, welcome back to episode 72. This is Of Stone and Clay. We're here with brother, Father Jon Schmidt. Thanks for joining, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been wanting.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I've been wanting to get you on the pod for a while, but now that it's a little bit more professional and stuff, I didn't want to.
This is a nice set you have here.
Yeah. I didn't want you to invite you over to my dusty basement, and so, anyways, I'm excited. What? Can you recall? I was trying to think about this earlier today. Can you recall like the first time we met each other?
I think no, I can't.
This whole
worst memory.
This whole episode is based on your memory. So
it's gonna be short.
Gosh.
And we can't. We can edit, right?
We can.
Or is it just a?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, phew.
But we don't like to. We like it raw, and
okay.
Yeah. I told John before the episode if he could keep the language, clean for this episode. So he promised me to be on his best behavior. I'm not sure that I remember either. I wanted to start off by thanking you. It's been awesome having just kind of a second home with the Schmidts,
It's
like
awesome.
Spencer,
You are family.
Thank you, man.
You are family.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It's been so cool to be so close with Spencer, but also just kind of infused into his life and his family. I come over for Sunday dinner sometimes, and it's just, it's awesome to have kind of a secondary, set of parents to bounce ideas off of and siblings. And it's just, it's been awesome.
Well, you're so darn funny. We enjoy it.
Thanks, man. I know if I wasn't funny, it would be tough to have me around. I wanted to ask you a couple questions about fatherhood.
Okay.
Is there something that you feel like, because I feel like parenting, I'm sure, just like any other thing, you kind of evolve with it.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of is something you get better at, and you learn from one kid to the next.
Mm-hmm. You don't know what you're doing at first at all.
Yeah, and there's really no way to know. You just are going off of your life experiences and what your parents taught you. But if you could kind of go back now and kind of re-parent, are there things that you have in your brain that you're like, oh, I wish I would have learned this earlier, or I wish I would have done this earlier?
Wow, that is really great. I think more than anything else, I would have liked to have been more trusting as far as, just letting God be in charge and not getting anxious and not fearing.
Just worrying about kids making mistakes and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just are. I'm so embarrassed at how anxious I got with sports, for example.
Yeah.
Watching your kids in sports, it's just like, it brings out the worst in you. It's just embarrassing.
Right.
And it's just all anxiety and fear and just stupid.
Right. Yeah. There's no
stuff
trust.
That if I could go back, now with my grandkids, there's no way I will be the way I was with Spencer. And poor Spencer, he's just like, I think your kids pick up on that anxiety.
Yeah.
And if you could just like somehow be more trusting.
Right. Do you feel like a lot of that is because you were a good athlete? You were a big rugby player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like a lot of it is like
good athlete is what I was?
Okay, you were moderately decent. Do you feel like a lot of that is you kind of subconsciously wanting to continue that life of athletic achievement through your kids?
I think I know how much my sports was a lifesaver for me.
Yeah.
My parents were German immigrants. They didn't know anything about college, or couldn't give me guidance on. A lot of people get a lot of guidance from their parents, and it's a real help in their life. And I would see, I look or remember how my friends' families were, and they had such an advantage that way. And I honestly feel like sports made up for that void for me
Mm-hmm.
because my parents didn't know anything about the United States, or they didn't, they grew up in the war,
Yeah.
and so they weren't educated. So I had an older brother that realized that I was really fast. I was always the fastest in my grade, and he saved up his paper out money and got me into Little League football.
Mm.
And he and his friend would like get on their knees in our backyard, and he would have me run clear across the yard and try to break through them
Yeah.
as they were on their knees. He's
Yeah.
like, hit lower, you know? So they just like, he tried to just really help me. And before I knew it, this local sports store that was sponsoring the Little League was sending me certificates, MVP of the week, back of the week. And I was just like, it was such a,
I think that's called tampering.
it was such a boost to
Yeah.
me. It was such a help in my life. It helped me socially, kind of saved my life. Actually, I wonder what I would have done without sports, and it helped me to learn how to work hard.
Yeah.
I think the game of football is really valuable.
Yeah.
And the only dilemma is that it's, it can cause injury and that sort of thing. But and nowadays it's overtaking kids' lives. It used to be more in balance back in my day. So I really I don't know what to think about it anymore, because there are some negatives now.
It's such a tough balance to like, because I was the same way. Like without sports, I don't really know what I would have done. You know? It gave me such a like basis for friendships and community, and taught me how to work hard. But the thing that I struggled with as I got older is, because I was a decent basketball player, but that's where like all of my self-worth went into, unfortunately. And so when I didn't do well, or our team lost or something, it felt like I was the failure, and it felt like there was nothing else that I could really contribute. And even as like I got out of high school and stuff, I was just like, the only thing I cared about was like trying to play college basketball. And when that dream didn't really work out, I was like, well, I guess I got to coach basketball. Like I got to stay in, because that's what I am. That's what I do. Right. And I wish when I was younger, I would have, like, there was other things I was interested in, but I wish I would have put, like, I could have worked just as hard and put just as much focus into it, but somehow not had it correlated with my self-worth. But that's so hard when you're 14.
It's so hard. I wish there was a way that you could, like, if there was a course that you could take that could teach you how to make decisions based on inspiration. 100%. And carve out the anxiety and the fear.
Right.
That would be so cool for parents.
Right.
Because I would love, my kids as they're raising their kids to just have confidence that these kids have a purpose. They have a mission that God has for them, and to just be able to place total faith in that. And not get in the way, not feel like they have to like meddle.
Right.
I felt like I was meddling. I felt like I was meddling in my kids' lives. And meddling in my own life.
Right.
And I would love to go back and undo that. Just let them feel confidence and trust.
I bet you have kind of the second wave of like parental inspiration as a grandfather, right? You kind of have these new humans entering your life, and there's no pressure for you. You can just kind of sit back and observe and kind of think of, oh, maybe I would have done it differently.
For sure.
Talk to me about, we don't need to get into all the details, but obviously it's funny. I kind of came into your son's life when your daughter had passed away. It had only been, I think, a year. or so. And so I never got to meet her, which is a huge bummer. Like, you guys always talk about her, and I'm kind of just like, okay.
Yeah, you would have loved her.
I know. That's what everyone always says.
She would have loved you.
Yeah, hopefully it would be reciprocated. But talk to me about, obviously, she died tragically in a hiking accident. Your whole family searched for her for weeks. Talk to me how, what's it been, 7 years, 6, 7 years? Talk to me about what does that do to you? Like, you have to just kind of be changed forever going through something like that. And a piece of you is probably kind of always a little bit missing, a little bit empty. But what's kind of left of you after something like that?
I think that was. I love the book that my wife wrote about it, and it's called Carried. I feel like somehow you have experience with this principle where God promises to bring beauty out of ashes. I just have come out of it with a real testimony that God can take any pile of ashes and make something beautiful out of it.
Yeah.
And if there is an exception to that, then the whole thing really is not reliable.
Right. Yeah,
you
that's
know,
true.
I mean, that whole idea of we glory in tribulation because tribulation works hope, or leads to experience. Experience leads to patience, and it all ends where? It all ends with hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that whole idea that all tribulation ends in hope, that's something that's a tough sell at first. But I think the more tribulations we go through, the more we're just like, I'm not afraid of anything now.
Yeah.
Like Paul's like, I've been through so much stuff and I've been delivered, and there's no reason for me to doubt that I will be delivered from everything. So I'm not afraid of anything. It's almost like you have the system beat.
Right. Yeah. Because what can happen that's like worse than losing a child? Like, you almost feel like I've been through that crucible. Anything that comes my way, like, I know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
I have the tools now, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And every hard thing, I think, reinforces it. And so I don't know if it's as much of a question of what have we lost, because we feel like it's just amazing to have, to have the assurances that we have from the gospel. It's amazing. So
was it something that ultimately you feel like brought your family closer together? Like, it weirdly, like, I know for me, I haven't had anything that tragic, but anytime, like, I've lost a few grandparents, and I just feel like those moments, days after and weeks after, when you're together as a family, you're kind of mourning together and you're planning the funeral and you're doing all this kind of horrible stuff, but you're doing it together, and you're like, all you can really do, I feel like, is laugh and cry. Like, there's not much in between. You're just exhausted and you've cried all you can. And so sometimes all you can do is just kind of laugh with the people you love. Do you feel like that just did something to kind of buoy your family?
When we were trying to find her day after day and weren't finding her, that was a tough time.
Yeah.
That was a really tough time. We were kind of battling resentment at times. And I think that is a real hazard. And I am really thankful that Spencer one night just talked me off a cliff.
Yeah.
When I was feeling resentful
towards God, or just,
I was just feeling, I don't know exactly if I was able to pinpoint, but I was just having this, we've looked for days And why aren't we, God knows where Annie is. Why will he not answer our prayers?
Right. We've been praying and
And
fasting.
he's answered so many prayers over the years.
Yeah.
This is probably the most urgent prayer we've ever had.
Yeah.
And we felt like it was a complete silence.
Yeah.
And I think, there were times when we all just kind of were feeling numb. We just all went into this numb state that was not fun at all.
Yeah.
And it wasn't close. It didn't feel close.
Yeah.
When we were searching and nothing was happening. So, but when we found her, it involved miracles of such magnitude that it was really healing.
Yeah.
It was really, really healing.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that came, like I would just say, the people that came to our, like angels, people came into our life.
Yeah.
And that was amazingly healing. And having people pray for you has a flavor. It has there's a definite feeling to that.
Yeah.
It just feels a certain way. And we felt that. So, but there were times of family. It was just this weird feeling that we'd never had before.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
we're just numb and
there's no way
people are battling, there's times when somebody's strong and then somebody's weak and then that person gets stronger and that person, through the family.
And there's no way to prepare for a moment like that.
Yeah.
There was something cool that Spencer shared with me a while back. He sent in a photo and it was of like years ago when your family like sat down and all the kids were young and you guys did like these family goals. And I thought
New Year's.
we had these New Year's resolutions as a family. But I thought they were so cool, and I loved how you had one. They were in your early days before the piano guys really struck, and you had one that was like, get this many cassettes into a store, or it was like make $39,000 this year from music or whatever, and then a lot of those came to fruition. Tell me about kind of that idea of sitting down and making family New Year's resolutions. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, we have no shame with one another. We just make our New Year's resolutions and then when we're done, we share with each other what we did and I look back at those because Michelle has kept those all of those over the years.
Yeah,
and I look back at them. And I just think my kids are so cute to share such personal stuff.
right.
And we as parents, we didn't care. They don't get what's going on. They didn't even read what we were writing. But we were doing it. Michelle and I were doing it for our own benefit. And then a year later we would read them. That's part of the process is read the last year's and then make new ones.
Yeah.
And it would be cool to see what actually happened, by identifying it and
totally,
and what didn't happen. Then it goes on the next year, but it's cool. I think it actually, I think it's. I don't agree with everybody bagging on New Year's resolutions. I think they actually have a good effect.
Yeah.
So
I think people get weird about them because they feel like they're arbitrary, like, oh, January 1st I need to start making goals, I should always be making goals. But it's like it's just a checkpoint, right? It's just like I sometimes do goals based off of like my birthday as that being my new year. And then the new year, like my birthday happens to be about 6 months into the year, and so I feel like I kind of have two checkpoints.
Cool.
And so, but yeah, like I think it's good to do both like really quantitative goals and kind of abstract goals.
Yeah.
Because
Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, because sometimes it's hard to like quantify, like, I'm trying to be more generous, right? I'm trying to be more kind. Like, how do you do little sub goals to make sure that happens? Like, it's just kind of something you try to reiterate in your life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think if somebody's, if somebody tried to make a case either way, one person is going to make a case, goals are stupid. Other person makes a case, goals are beneficial. I think the goals are beneficial would win.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how are you going to make a case for goals are stupid?
Yeah. I don't know many successful people that don't make goals, you know?
I mean, even if you don't do very well with them, it's better to make them than to not make them.
Yeah. It's better to, I think people rag on people making, you know, January 1st, okay, and then all of a sudden I'm making these crazy grandiose goals that I quit on in February. But it's like, I think the main thing, like you said, is going back each year and saying, okay, how did I do? Let me recalibrate. Like, okay, maybe I'm not going to like make it to Mars landing this year because maybe I should go to astronaut school first. But, you know, kind of just look at your goals and be like, okay, are these year after year, am I accomplishing 0% of my goals? Maybe I should change something, you know? But I think it's good to constantly be assessing your life.
I agree.
And seeing how you're doing.
The unexamined life is not worth living, which I'm sure you've heard.
I've heard
because you've heard all the good ones.
I've heard all of them.
You're a quote gatherer.
I am. I actually have a couple quotes I want to talk about. But first, I wanted to ask you. You brought up a funny point that your family can be kind of almost shameless in how much you share with each other. I wanted to ask what kind of fostered that culture of just sharing and being so open with each other, because I think it's beautiful. I think it's necessary. And I think a lot of people, you could eliminate some of their contention and some of their issues if there was more openness.
Gosh, that is a good question. I think Michelle's family culture is awesome. Her dad is
they're extremely open.
So funny. Like, I have never for 1 minute felt like I have to be afraid of my father-in-law and like live up to his expectations. And he's always he always just, if he ever does anything dumb, he just tells everybody and laughs about it. And and anything he's ever done that's dumb, he just tells everybody. Right. It's just the funniest. He just like laughs about it. Yeah. And Michelle's mom just laughs right along with it, and you know, and they just don't. They're not embarrassed. Yeah. They're not trying to. They're not trying to put on a front at all. Yeah. And I think that's a cool quality. Right. Yeah. That I think they've passed down. And my parents were the same way. They never put on a front. They didn't care about. Yeah,
foreigners are good at that usually.
About putting on, perception. Yeah. There's a saying when I heard it, and let's see if I'm going to test you if you've heard this one. It says, it says we should be less worried about image and more worried about whose image is in our countenance. Name the author of that one, Taylor.
I don't know. My guess would be C.S. Lewis.
Close. It's Neil A. Maxwell. Okay. Which is a close second.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's a cool.
That's a good one. But when I first heard that, I was like, I didn't quite relate because my parents didn't care about image. Yeah. And Michelle's parents didn't care about image. Yeah. And it's so refreshing. Yeah. So
was that something that you and Michelle with your kids talked about a lot? Like, let's try and foster this culture, or was it just kind of a natural byproduct of your personalities?
I think it came down through the family traits. Yeah. I think.
Yeah, that's cool. I wanted to ask you, I've heard a little bit, but I wanted to ask kind of how you and Michelle met and how you guys fell in love. I think, were you in the friend zone for a while?
Mm-hmm.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Were you at peace in the friend zone, or was it an inhospitable place for you?
It's a weird thing. In some aspects, I've been able to be trusting.
Yeah.
It's been I'm a weird combination of ability to trust really well and sometimes just horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible at it.
Yeah.
But my older sister, 11 years older than me, was such a mentor and a hero in my life. And she married a guy that was another mentor and hero in my life. And they had such strong faith. And I would, once they got married, I would hang out at their house and they would talk about, parenting and marriage and faith. And it was one of those, it was just this perpetual situation where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, then there am I also. And it was just this like feeling of, it was delicious to me.
Yeah.
I just, that whole, your mind is enlightened and your soul expands. I was like this 13, 14-year-old kid just hanging out in those conversations for hours. I was like this just weird kid.
Yeah.
And I just loved being at their house and hearing all of these ideas. And one thing that I think I took from that is just this real assurance that if God wanted me to get married, it was going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I didn't even worry about it. I didn't have to. There was like no question about it.
Yeah.
It was like a foregone conclusion.
Yeah. I would love some of that.
So it didn't stress me out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was a unique little thing that I got from my sister.
Right. Right. So when did it kind of click for you? Like as you kind of crept out of the friend zone, when did it kind of click for you that like, wow, Michelle's on another level? Like, like this is like, I'm starting to fall.
Well, I was waiting for a girl on a mission that I thought I was going to marry.
Yeah.
And I just had a lot of fun hanging out with Michelle, and she was really cute.
Yeah.
It's like super cute.
Yeah.
Like
Suspiciously cute.
Suspiciously.
Yeah.
That's why we love you, Taylor. That's why we love you. And I just and when we talked, it reminded me of my sister. And I always wanted to marry someone that I could talk to like my sister would talk with her husband.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a really cool model. And that's what I really loved about the girl that I was waiting for on the mission, is that we could talk.
Yeah.
And the gospel was delicious to her. And the same thing with Michelle.
Yeah.
And so we just enjoyed each other, and like literally didn't even do anything physical for like 9-10 months. Just hung out.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was really fun. I mean, in my opinion, it was just like so stress-free to be with her.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there were no ulterior anything clouding anything.
Yeah.
And I feel like it developed picture perfect.
Right. Yeah.
Because I was waiting for someone.
Yeah.
So I'm really thankful for the way that was just a little blessing in my life.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Me and Spencer always talk about how like no matter how cool the guy is, the kind of culture of your family, a lot of it revolves around the mother. So like if you want your kids to be awesome and have great personalities and be dynamic, a lot of the onus is on the mother. And so that is such an important decision. It's such a like, no matter how accomplished or wealthy or amazing or handsome the husband is, it's like the wife needs to be amazing.
For the kids' sake.
Yeah. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She saves the day for the kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's the game changer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Shout out to Michelle. We love her, and she's such a good cook.
Oh man,
I can't believe the things that she has put onto a plate that I've put into my
it's
mouth.
amazing.
Yeah.
I wish I could cook.
Yeah.
I'm in awe of.
But why learn if you got Michelle at the helm?
Well, I try to make it equal
Sure, you
as
help
far
out.
as helping and
Yeah.
cleaning and
Yeah.
all that. So that's where I feel like it's justified.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know, but I could do better.
Sure. I could too. One of the things I admired the most about you when I've heard this was how, and this is kind of from an artist's perspective, because a lot of people I think would maybe even not respect this about you, but I loved that you really never did anything career-wise but play the piano.
Thanks.
Like it was so.
I think you should like the this episode should be advertised with. I think this is something that people wouldn't respect about me.
Yeah, it's a long title, but
that would be good.
yeah, it would. The most unrespectable things about Jon Schmidt. But I find respectable. No, but it's so cool that you, from an early age, just believed in your art and believed in God's ability to provide for you. And because Michelle never worked either, right?
Mm-hmm. That's in her patriarchal blessing.
Really?
Yeah, that she wouldn't have to work.
Wow. And you just, you believed in it. And because it's.
Do I need to explain patriarchal blessings?
People can look them up. But I think like that's one thing. If you're like, just being a pianist is such a specific niche craft.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sure you had so many people being like, Jon,
mother-in-law.
Yeah, this is great and everything, but can we please just get a job with some insurance and some benefits, But what made you just never kind of waver with that? Just knowing, like, was it because you knew all the time you had put into it, you just kind of trusted the work, or was it more just faith that everything would work out?
It's a long answer.
Yeah.
Do we have time?
We have all the time.
When I got home from my mission, I had a real identity crisis and, self-confidence crisis.
Was your hair falling out?
Yes, that too. That too. And so I sat in my backyard and I'm like, how in the world am I ever going to provide for family and get somebody to marry me and figure out college? And it just felt so overwhelming. And I just started to pray, like what, help. And I had the impression to go into my house and look on my bookshelf. And I found this book that had been given to me when I was like 14 or 15 by my aunt. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I thought it was the lamest Christmas present possible. Yeah. But as I think about that day, it was a game changer for me to find this book. It was a book called I Challenge You, I Promise You. And it was a book that had some poems of challenges in the form of a poem when you read it one way. And then if you flip it upside down, promises associated with those challenges. Mm-hmm. And it was all in poem form. Yeah. And I came across a poem that I have in my phone.
Oh, wow.
And I hope it's okay if I read it.
Yeah, this is an exclusive.
This was the poem that is the reason why I felt like I could eventually go into music. Because I was against music. I didn't want to be a musician. I had heard my older brothers and sisters talk about friends of theirs that had gone into music and how they were following their passion, but their families were getting hacked. Yeah. Just totally. Yeah.
Just the
but
lifestyle.
They were so fixated on, I need to follow my passion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So here's the poem that I found that day. It says, I challenge you to seek your personal divine destiny. Talks about patriarchal blessings. It says your patriarchal blessing, you read it over again and again and wonder what it really says. Because everyone comes to earth with specific missions to perform. And, whether that, maybe before this life we sat with God and he says, I got like a couple hundred people that I would like you to help. Are you down?
Yeah.
And we were like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm down.
Yeah.
And I think that's our life mission, is maybe helping a few hundred people.
Yeah.
And maybe some of those people are going to, really make a difference in the world. Who cares? Maybe we personally will make a difference in the world. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares whether it's in through us or somebody we touch?
Or your ripple effect.
Yeah. Who cares? So, but foreordination is not predestination, and there's no guarantee that someone will do what God wants them to do while they are here on earth. But you are starting at the right place. Go from that patriarchal blessing to prayer and back and forth and back and forth. And your foreordination, or in other words, your life mission, will distill upon your soul like dew, a little at a time, a line upon a line, and a precept upon a precept. And there are no shortcuts, for even Jesus found out about his mission in this same way. Have the faith to let it come at the rate that the Lord wants it to come, for he knows the best time. But be persistent as the widow was with Christ, for he rewards persistence. And if he knows that you want to know, you can be sure that he will tell you. That one really sunk in when I thought, you ask yourself, does God know that I want to know what my mission is? And I just sat in my backyard and I thought about that for a minute. In the meantime, as it comes to you ever so gradually, you're not held up in your progression, not at all. Stay worthy, stay prepared. Perhaps he will show you your foreordination one small step at a time. Your lifetime cause may still be vague, but the immediate step, the mission, the marriage, the school, whatever it is, may be much clearer. So take that step, because as you do, the long-range vagueness will become a little less vague, like slowly turning a lens into focus. For you see, now this is the part that really strengthened me, the important thing is not that you know fully and precisely your total foreordination, but rather that you are seeking to know it. For the Lord will not allow one who is sincerely seeking their calling to make very many false steps.
I like that a lot.
Isn't that so cool?
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, all I need to do is let the Lord know that I want his plan.
Yeah. Not worry about your plan.
And then not worry.
Yeah.
And the Spirit confirmed that so powerfully that it became an anchor for me. And I feel like when the Lord knows that we want his plan, then it's like, okay, let's go. Yeah. You just open the door for me.
Yeah.
And I honestly feel like his responses to me saying, what is your plan, was resulted in a 180 as far as music. We have felt such distinct, definite pushes to do music.
Yeah.
One key part of that was I didn't want to impose that decision on a girl that I married.
Yeah.
Because I knew that it would carry with it.
A lot comes with it.
Yeah, it would carry with it just a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And just a brutal lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I did not want to impose that decision on a girl. Mm-hmm. And the thing that was so neat about Michelle is that she totally, when I shared this concept with her, she totally bought into it.
She's just in.
She's just like, that is money.
Yeah.
Well, let's bet the farm on that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then we together made the decision to do music.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way it could have happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then if she was even just kind of on board, it would have been a disaster.
Disaster.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
I
Especially,
wouldn't have done that to her.
especially in those moments when I'm sure there was a lot of years where you're like, are we ever going to make it? Are we ever going to get any traction with this? Or am I just teaching piano lessons and playing? I don't know. Were you playing like piano bars and stuff?
Piano, like non-alcoholic piano bars.
Yeah. Some mocktails
I was playing like playing in piano guy in the restaurant
or hotels
or weddings or
Yeah.
wherever.
Right.
You know, I was just playing wherever.
Yeah.
Just to make some money in the early days, and then trying to, you know, put out recordings and do concerts, and
Yeah.
it was a weird journey. But like you say, it from that day on, it wasn't my career; it was our career.
Yeah.
And we made all these decisions together.
And you probably realize, like, I love that thought you had that, you know, before this life, maybe you're talking with God and God's kind of like, hey, I got kind of a group of a couple hundred people I think you could really help if you do your best, if you do your part. But I think
if you abide in me,
right,
you know,
but I think the cool
because
thing,
none of us do our best, I guess.
you know, we always do our best and it's always not good enough, right? But I think with you and, you know, your guys in your band, like you guys have kind of a special opportunity where maybe your number of people you can help is just bigger, you know, because of the platform you have and the influence you can have. And so it's really a kind of a sacred gift that you have.
But like I say, in the long run, we're all going to ripple out.
Yeah. Yeah. I
really believe that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of up to you whether it's going to be good ripples or bad ripples.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, that's the cool thing. I try to remember as often as I can that every single person you meet, you have an opportunity to kind of have a good ripple effect on the whole world, you know, because they're going to be changed from your interaction one way or another.
Yes.
And so it's kind of up to you to have it be positive.
And it could ripple big time.
Yeah.
And it might take a few generations.
Yeah.
But like literally, like if 1,000 years we look at all of our ripple effect, I think they'll all be very similar.
Yeah.
You know, maybe somebody had it sooner, you know.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. So something I think about a lot is I think about when I die, like, and I'm in this next state of being and I'm meeting other people, I want whatever interaction we had on earth to be good, because I don't want to meet someone and be like, oh, I was kind of a jerk to you. You know, like even if it's just like
totally
a cashier I interacted with, I want that to be something that when we reunite, it's like, oh, you were kind to me for a moment.
That's awesome. I love that thought.
Yeah.
That is such a cool thought.
And it's hard to like always have that because you're so often just in your own little world and you're stressed about work and you're thinking about this and this and this. And so when people come into your little world, it's hard to be soft with them and it's hard to be compassionate with them.
Yeah.
But I think if you can kind of have that little philosophy of like, okay, what kind of influence am I going to leave with them? Then it'll just be easier to move through life, I think.
Yeah. I love that, man. Yeah, that's good content.
Right good. Talk to me a little bit about just as an artist.
Can I just say one thing real fast?
Please.
I love this idea too of thinking, and when I was dating Michelle, when we started to get serious, she asked me some questions to see where I stood on things. And one of the questions she wanted to get my feelings on was, how do you feel about being one? Being united, totally united.
What a question.
It was such a cool question.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, no secrets from each other, you know, just try to do this whole thing, you know, where you try to be one with Christ, and the closer you get to Christ, the closer you get to each other. Like if this is you and your spouse, the closer you get to Christ, the closer you get to each other. And this whole unity with each other and Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a cool thing to include in that finances.
Yeah.
It's not my money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your money.
Yeah.
It's our money.
Right.
I think it was just such a cool way to do that.
Yeah.
I just love, and everything else,
Mm-hmm. What's been your guys' style of conflict resolution when you and Michelle have, an inevitable disagreement or something that is just one of you reacted poorly? What's been your guys' efficient way of resolving that conflict? Do you like to kind of take some time, be by yourself, get, whatever bad feelings away and then go resolve?
I definitely go off on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Because something that a really great piece of advice that we got from our stake president interview, which felt so weird of all the things that he could say. He says, I just have one piece of advice. And he says, don't criticize. And just like, that's just impossible.
Yeah.
How do you, I just, thought of my mission and I'm like, don't criticize anybody on your mission, any of your companions.
Right.
I think I just had a problem with that,
Yeah.
because I was always, it's probably what I was, I don't know. It was probably a weakness that I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
And if I ever slipped and criticized Michelle, like it was so devastating. It was so harmful.
Yeah.
It was so harmful that I quickly learned the wisdom in us getting that. And I am so thankful that instead of criticizing, I learned to just go away. Just go, if I felt like I needed to criticize her, just go remove myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm really, really glad that we've been able to just talk honestly with each other about what happened, what we're feeling, and be a team.
Yeah.
Like even when we were having conflict, I always felt like we were a team.
Yeah.
The unity, the oneness still remained. And it's like we tried to address the conflict as a team and not as individuals. And that whole idea of being one that she sold me on, I think it's a winner.
Yeah.
I think you can approach the conflicts as a team.
Yeah.
You don't ever have to turn away from each other.
Yeah. I love this quote by Jordan Peterson. He talks about how sometimes we think that these little things, these little tiny micro conflicts, they're not a big deal. They're not worth getting into. But he said anything that happens every day is not trivial, and you shouldn't think it is, even if it's like, oh, I hate how Michelle, like, for breakfast every day she does this little thing and it kind of bugs me. Like, the oatmeal's a little cold or whatever tiny little thing. But if it's happening every day, it's not trivial. And it just builds up. And that's how people have years and years of unresolved resentment.
Yeah.
And so I love the idea of there's really no fight that's too small to have. And maybe fight's the wrong word, but just any little thing that you're like, I don't feel like we're on the same page right now. Like just getting on that same page.
Yeah. I think, and also, as you get on that same page, to try to do it in a way that doesn't feel critical, that feels loving, I guess.
Yeah.
If you do have differences, I think for us, as we've asked each other, what should we do when we feel to criticize? I think the first thing we try, which has worked most of maybe at least half the time, is to pray for that thing to be resolved somehow.
Yeah.
Either that your faith on their behalf and your prayers will help them to stop doing it, or that it will stop bugging you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've experienced both of those outcomes.
Yeah.
And she has with me.
Yeah. I've even
And
done
that-
that with friends.
Yeah.
I had a friend that I was living with, this was years ago, and he was a really close friend, but he was just getting on my nerves. And I remember just praying, like, can you please help me to not be so affected by his
Yeah.
little idiosyncrasies, you know? And you see, even in like evoking those words, you're kind of telling yourself how silly you're being, right?
Totally.
You're
Makes me think of when I was on a mission and how lame I was. So lame.
so unrespectable. We'll include that in the the highlights. The unrespectable life of Jon Schmidt. Okay, I have a couple quotes I wanted to share with you and wanted to get your thoughts. They were from this author, Brenda Euland. She's a writer and just writes a lot about writing and creativity and art. And I thought you would enjoy these as far as coming from them as, a father, a husband, but also as a teacher. I know you taught piano lessons for the majority of your life.
I would buy your quote book. I love your quotes.
Thanks. It's just you read a lot and you realize there's a lot of good stuff out there. Okay, this is again from Brenda Euland. She said, "For when you come to think of it, the only way to love a person is not as the stereotyped Christian notion is, to coddle them and bring them soup when they are sick, but by listening to them and seeing and believing in the God and the poet in them. For by doing this, you keep the God and the poet alive and make it flourish."
Wow.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Believe in the God in people.
Yeah.
Believe in the poet in people.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's maybe more meaningful than just kind of coddling them and bringing them soup when they're sick. And there's nothing.
That is cool.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with bringing someone soup when they're sick.
Yeah.
But kind of going a little further and a little deeper, I guess.
That is a really cool quote. I love that. It makes you think of that quote, that C.S. Lewis quote. If you saw the most unimpressive person in their true state, you would be strongly tempted to worship them. You've heard that one.
Yeah. So cool.
That's what that's saying, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think we forget that there's divinity in all of us,
Yeah. And to just have that ability to, like you say, when you're dealing with people that you don't need in your life, they can't offer you something.
Mm-hmm.
How is that different from dealing with people that have something that you need?
Yeah, I think it's easy to see the God or the poet in the love of your life, right? Or someone you look up to, a mentor, but to see it in a stranger, or to see it in a family member that maybe you're having a tough time getting along with, a tough time agreeing with.
Wow. I think that is something that I really admire, if somebody has that gift.
Yeah.
To make somebody feel believed in.
Yeah.
Always. No matter what their limitations are, what their handicaps are.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know, an example comes to mind of, I think Down syndrome people are a type for this.
Yeah.
They have something inside them that is so
Pure.
Special.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a type. I think God uses all kinds of things to teach us.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this kid
what that quote says.
Yeah. There's this kid that was in our high school that had Down syndrome, and he was obsessed with basketball.
Yeah.
And I remember he he got in his head that the senior ball was a big basketball game for all seniors instead of a dance, right? And so the basketball team decided to kind of throw a game for him.
Oh gosh,
and
that is awesome.
It was so cool. And we just took we had like a 6th hour that was like when we practiced as a team, and we just took that hour and had somebody, our coach put on a ref suit and a whistle, and we plugged in the clocks and timers and everything, and did like a starting lineup with him. And he was just so like, that was the best day of his life, and we rigged it. So like, we played for a little bit and then made the score tied and then had him make the game winning shot. And, he missed it like 8 times, and we just paused the clock. But it was,
or like people in the stands and stuff.
Just like 20 kids.
That's awesome.
But it just meant the world to him.
Yeah. And
it was so cool because, it taught us what it means to make somebody's day.
Yeah.
And
well, that's that quote.
Yeah. Yeah. And
totally,
in that moment, despite his handicap, we saw the God in him.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it was just so cool to be a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who would we exclude from that consideration?
Right.
Hopefully no one.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully
no one.
Yeah. I think sometimes we go through life subconsciously excluding some people, that rub us the wrong way, or that we think, have been malicious to us or something. But really, everyone is deserving of that.
Yeah.
That feeling.
Yeah. Hopefully, I never laugh at anyone.
Yeah.
After that quote,
right.
I just never want to laugh at anybody and poke fun at somebody. It's like,
yeah. Cool. I wanted to read this next one too. And this, I think, will resonate with you more maybe as a father and as a teacher. Because in the book, she's talking about kind of teaching writing and the craft of writing. And she says, the only good teachers for you are those friends who love you, who think you are interesting or very important or wonderfully funny, whose attitude is, tell me more, tell me all you can. I want to understand more about everything you feel and know and all the changes inside and out of you. Let more come out.
And how does it start again?
The only good teachers for you are those friends who love you, who think you are interesting or very important or wonderfully funny, whose attitude is.
Wow.
And, for me, that's saying like say you're teaching a kid a piano, instead of focusing on like what he's not getting, like how he's maybe not understanding the notes or not understanding what you're trying to portray. It's maybe getting out of him why he's even interested in music, why he even wants to touch the keys, and then, celebrating him for how much he's improved and how much, he's giving to the art. I don't know. It's just such a cool way of viewing things, I think.
But, as a piano teacher, though, I do feel like I had a cool, somewhere I picked up a principle that your positive reactions should outweigh your negative corrections, or your positive reactions should outweigh your corrections by, I don't know, I don't remember the exact number, but like 10 to 1 or something. So when I was teaching piano, I started this thing where every time I had an excuse to say something positive, I took it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I tried to evaluate if my positives were a good ratio.
Yeah. I love that philosophy. I've tried to, this is something just like anything, sometimes you're good at it, sometimes you're horrible at it, but I've tried to, anytime a compliment comes to my mind for somebody, to say it, right? Because I hate having these kind of swallowed compliments that just don't go anywhere. Like, I think sometimes you get in your head and you think, oh, well, like, I don't want to bug them, or like, I don't even know them. It might sound weird,
Mm.
but I just try to always have that in my head of, oh, if I like somebody's shirt, I'm going to tell them. If I think they
I love that.
were proficient in something I saw, something I witnessed, I want to tell them. But I think sometimes it's almost I don't know if it's your ego or selfishness, but you almost don't want to let someone's light shine brighter, which is a horrible thought, right? But I think sometimes you're so in your own world that you're like, they don't need that right now. I don't know. Is that weird?
I think everyone struggles with it, man.
Yeah.
Just that uncomfortable, awkward thing that can stop us from
But it's weird
saying something
because I never
that they deserve, or
I never like don't appreciate a compliment.
yeah,
You know, it's always welcomed
yeah,
on the other side. But
it's true.
I don't know. Anyway, yeah, that's just something I try to have. I would love to just always live that way, but it's hard sometimes, you know.
Same here, man.
You've traveled so much with piano guys. What's the coolest place you've been? A place you've enjoyed traveling the most?
I would say Iguazu Falls was the most amazing nature thing I've ever witnessed in my life. Just to have this huge river that hits, the equivalent of cliffs.
Yeah, it's just a panorama.
Everywhere you look, and just
yeah,
it was amazing. The words that song Spencer covered, "So Will I." There's a line in there that says, "I see your love a million different ways," or something, and that's what I felt. That's what I felt there. I just felt the love of God.
Yeah,
it's like, I love you.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Just it's cool how nature can do that. It's so weird, but it's like you just can feel a majestic feeling. You can feel like, well, there's some greater purpose to everything.
Yeah. A work of art called love. Every painted sky, a work of art called love. I think I'm combining two different lyric moments in the song. Yeah. But that whole idea is really cool.
Yeah.
I love Spencer's video that he did on that.
Yeah.
It's just,
it's
epic. I want it to go viral. I want that thing I want everyone to see that.
Yeah. It's funny. I didn't even do this on purpose, but my episode order, I did another episode with Spencer, and then you're going to be next. So we got son and father, and I didn't even mean to do that, but that's how it worked out. What about, like, do you have a favorite country you visited that's just been so fun to absorb that culture? And
yeah, I would have to say Singapore. Yeah, Singapore is all that.
Yeah.
Singapore is the bomb.
That's so cool.
They have their act together.
Yeah.
The way their government is running, it's effective.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Right.
And you can feel it. And there is this dish called chili crab. And it comes with these little, like, deep fried buns. They're almost like scones, but they're like that. They have, I don't know how to describe it, but you dip it in this crab, like this sweet chili sauce that like surrounds the crab.
Yeah.
And that's why they have the buns, because the sauce is to die for. Like, you could drink it. It's that
oh, wow.
It's that good.
Yeah.
And went there alone, and then went back there a couple of times, and then took Michelle, and she's like, and we've tried to find sweet chili crab anywhere. LA, New York. You cannot find it anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I've never heard of a Singapore restaurant.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
that's cool.
And the people are so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what makes a place. The culture's fun, and when when the geography is really beautiful, that's, extra. But yeah, when the people make everything, I think,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just a couple more questions. Okay, this is kind of a crazy hypothetical, but if you had a John of the future, a John from 10 years into the future, and he could come and give you advice on your present life, what do you think he would say?
I think my future John would say, this is a quote that I found when we were newlyweds. We read a lot. And this was a book we read called The Holy Ghost. It's by Joseph Fielding McConkie. And
That's quite the mix.
yeah, guess who his dad was? I mean, he wrote it with Robert Millet, who's another just great author that I love. And I think my future self would say, apply this in the crazy social media world that you're in. Apply this. Adam cried unto the Lord. This is from the doctrine. This is from the Pearl of Great Price. Adam cried unto the Lord and was caught away by the Spirit of the Lord, and was carried down into the water, and was laid under the water, brought forth out of the water, and thus was baptized. And the Spirit of God descended upon him, and thus he was born of the Spirit, and became quickened in the inner man. And then he commentaries on this. He says, to quicken is to make alive, to animate, to energize. To be born again is to be quickened as pertaining to spiritual things. And then he goes and describes like 30 things that happen as we are born again of the Spirit. And this list is a jaw dropper.
Yeah.
It's a jaw dropper. And just imagine.
Okay, everyone secure their jaws.
Yes, everybody secure your jaws. To be born again is to gain, number one, heightened sensitivity to things that matter. For example, since much of the time the Holy Ghost works with members of the church through their consciences, to be born again is to gain a, number two, deeper sensitivity to right and wrong. To, number three, enjoy greater manifestations of the gift of discernment. Number four, develop more refined and educated desires. Since being born again consists in being adopted into the royal family and thus gaining godly attributes and qualities, experiencing the new birth entails feeling a deeper compassion and empathy for those that mourn or suffer. The quickening in the inner man, this one is the jaw dropper, peels away the film and facade of sin. Peels away the film and facade of sin. Okay, here's a jaw dropper. Makes unnecessary the rigors and taxing labors of ostentation and superfluity. I'm going to read that again. To be born again makes unnecessary the rigors and taxing labors of ostentation and superfluity. That is a description of the social media world.
Right, yeah.
Ostentation and superfluity and taxing rigors.
Yeah.
And anybody who's in this business feels to depend on it.
Yeah.
They trust in it. What's all, but here's an alternative. It says, be born again. And then those who are born again see things clearly and sharply, are able to sift and sort out the sordid or even the tangential. It's like social media again.
Yeah.
Sifting out the sordid and the tangential.
Yeah, that's everything.
And you could say this with music. My future self would say, don't think about this just in social media. Think about in your music. Don't have ostentation and superfluity in your music.
Yeah.
Don't have it in anything. Don't have it in social media. This is a good one. They have less inclination to labor in secondary causes. A consuming but patient passion to occupy themselves in that which brings light, life, and love. They come to treasure the simple pleasures in life and rejoice in the goodness of their God. The nearer they approach perfection, the clearer are their views and the greater their enjoyments.
Yeah.
Is that a killer?
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's one to add to your quote book.
Yeah, that'll be easy to memorize. I love the idea of growing in your depth and your compassion for other people.
Oh yeah.
You know, because that's the easiest way to connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think sometimes people struggle with finding connection and keeping connection, and you know, some people don't have the gift of socializing easily.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one thing you can always do is, deeper your compassion for someone,
Mm-hmm.
deepen your just the depths of your conversation, and ergo you're gonna find connection, I think.
Mm. Ergo, that's a term for love, isn't it? No, eros.
That's eros.
I don't even know the word ergo. What's my problem?
Ergo is Latin for basically.
That's before you go.
it's basically it's before you love.
Oh, okay. Gosh. See, I knew this would happen. I knew that all night you'd be using words that I didn't know the meaning to.
All night I use one word, one little Latin word, and John gets fumbled. That was honestly my only goal in this episode. Because I know you're a wordsmith yourself. So
I did major in English, but that was to overcome the deficit of being raised in an immigrant home.
Yeah. You're just trying to catch up.
I'm still behind. It's like my dad used to say, I was born stupid. I never learned nothing. And then I forgot half of it.
That's profound.
Wow.
That's funny. We got 2 more questions. Can you handle them?
I think so.
Okay. Okay. This is one I often do at the end of my episodes. It's just a chance to flip the script, and you have to ask me one question.
Okay.
As you become the podcaster now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to think.
Yeah.
I wish I would have thought about a really good question.
We've been what have we been friends 5 or 6 years now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is and this is honestly cool because we've never, we have lots of little 3 to 5 minute conversations.
Yeah.
Little break off conversations.
I always feel like I don't want to be a pain, those parents that come in and they're just a pain. I'm like really oversensitive to that.
No, but it's especially like, your kids are grown. Like, I feel like you're more of a peer than just a dad, that's coming in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's been a fun transition, actually, because I felt that a little bit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I still don't want to meddle with
Sure.
Spencer.
You meddled enough with the sports.
I know. So true. Oh my gosh. Is there a theme to the question that it should address, or
just something that you maybe want to know my perspective on, something we haven't really ever chatted about, or something about me that you'd like to know more about that we haven't got into?
Well, let's see.
Because I think you get a lot of information about me secondhand.
Yeah. I know that you buy secondhand clothes.
Only if I have to.
Let's see. How did you get such a strong testimony?
It's a good question. I feel like everybody has gifts of the Spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about sometimes your ability to just trust,
Mm-hmm.
right? I feel like I've just had the gift of faith and have never really wavered or doubted in my beliefs.
Mm.
And, my parents obviously helped instill my beliefs. They helped foster, that culture, but I don't know, everything I believe just always made sense and never didn't.
That has been such a blessing to Spencer to have that strength and that influence
Yeah,
in his life.
that's awesome.
We
and
love
likewise,
it.
It's symbiotic, because I feel it from him, and but I think, there's other gifts that I feel like I don't have. I feel
Same
like
here.
I feel like I mean, like I feel like I've always, despite my faith, I've struggled to have really clear revelation from God. I feel like I don't do great with that. I do my best and I get some stuff, but I feel like a lot of my friends and people I talk to feel like they have really clear dialogue from God, and I don't feel like it's that clear with me.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please.
Because I just taught it yesterday.
Yeah.
We taught a thing on, we had the youth combined with the elders. And I was supposed to teach a lesson on increase your revelation, increase your capacity for revelation.
Yeah.
My first thought was, how are we gonna not lose the youth?
Yeah.
So as I was preparing, I was just like trying to put myself in the youth. How do I teach revelation to the youth? And the first thing I was thinking, I've got to tell them that when I was a youth, the word revelation just felt like so unrelatable.
Yeah.
Like it felt like prophet stuff.
Yeah.
I just can't relate. But I had the thought, how Alma describes this delicious phenomenon where your soul expands and your mind is enlightened. And as I thought about it, I really feel like that is something that everyone experiences to one degree or another.
Sure.
Pretty much. I mean, if somebody doesn't, I think it's really rare.
Yeah.
Like zero of that. But I do believe that is revelation. And then I thought, I've got to think of a time when I was a teenager that I experienced that. And I thought of this time when I was 15. And I explained this to the kids yesterday. When I was 15 years old, we drove up to, my friend got his license, and we're all so excited. And we would drive up to Bountiful or Davis County to visit these girls.
Yeah.
And they were all like my football buddies. And one night as we drove back, I guess we were weird kids. We started talking about the gospel.
Yeah.
And the Spirit came into that car. And all the things that Alma describes in Alma 32, enlightening of the mind, souls expanded. We started sharing insights with each other that were way beyond 16-year-old insights.
Yeah.
We started to feel this unity. Like those four guys, all of a sudden, there was a bond.
Yeah.
For life, to this day.
Yeah.
And I just feel like the car became a car of revelation.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's something we experience way more than we realize. I think, the difference between a discussion and an inspired discussion, like a discussion that you have on a lunch break or something versus an inspired discussion like the one we had yesterday with those kids. And then I thought, man, it's a miracle that happens so weekly to one degree, or sometimes it's cool. It's more delicious than others.
Yeah, sure.
But every time you have that delicious phenomenon hit, I really believe that it's revelation, and it's just a matter of not getting acclimated to it.
Yeah.
I think we get acclimated to it.
Right.
So that's just some thoughts that I have. I feel like you, with your guys, Spencer and Connor and just that group of yours, you guys are having it all the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's special.
Right.
You guys are such an amazing group of guys.
Yeah.
I really feel that. And I think from an outside, I can see that you've gotten a little acclimated, that you actually have it.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't realize it.
Yeah. I think, I think I've just maybe struggled with feeling like I'm good at getting specific, clear answers when I go to God and ask. But because of that, I've learned to just kind of trust my gut and don't worry about waiting for clear answers.
Well, I love that too.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that is a really great method for God to give us revelation.
Yeah.
Is to just say, like that poem that I read, I'm not going to just trust yourself. I'm not going to allow you to make very many false steps.
Yeah.
That was such a comfort to me. And I feel like revelation takes so many different forms. And one of them is just go forward.
Yeah.
And trust that it's always flowing in I believe that it's always one degree or another. I believe everybody on the street, you see that you pass. There's not one person that we pass on the street that's not receiving revelation on some level.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good
That's
point.
what I believe.
Yeah.
And I believe one method is restraints. And he's just like, go forward. And if you feel a restraint, pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I'm going to give you some really clear.
Yeah.
Like we had no clue on the house decision to move to Provo.
Yeah.
And we were asking, give us something.
Yeah.
Give us a green light. And nothing.
You just had a yield sign.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And it was just like, just do what you feel you want to do unless you get a red light. Look for the red lights.
Right.
And we've had so many, but we have had green lights, like with the music.
Right.
So I just think it takes lots of different forms, and I don't think you're any different than anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
That's true. No, that's a good.
Sorry to.
It's a good reminder.
Whip into. To blabber
to Pastor Jon. Just kidding. No, I appreciate it. My last question, kind of similarly, going to put you on the spot a little bit. This is kind of, but you like the spot. You're a grown man, you can handle it. Being so close with your son, I think you've heard of some of, some of my heartbreak and some of the things that I've struggled with and gone through. And my question to you is, as kind of an outsider, that sees things in a different way, what sort of fatherly advice would you give me as kind of a secondary, kind of a secondary son? Because the reason I say that is because I know, my dad's the same way, always a little hesitant to meddle, always a little hesitant to give unsolicited advice. You know what I mean? But I'm soliciting it.
Oh, gosh. I would just say trust. Like what I had to do on my mission.
Yeah. That
there is a work for you, and that God's not going to let you make very many false steps. And maybe I would ask a pointed question. I would just say, have you told God that his plan is more important than anything else?
Right.
And if you have, and he knows that, it's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I feel.
Right. It's just kind of already written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right where you need to be.
Yeah.
You're right where he wants him to be, right where he wants you to be.
Yeah.
That's what, is that too pointed?
No, that's just as pointy as we like.
Because, I mean, it's one thing to feel like you're trying to tell God that. It's another thing to feel like it's current, that it's renewed, that it's,
Yeah, sure.
for me in my life, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Is to feel like that communication of that aspect. I want to do your plan.
Yeah.
It's more important than anything to me.
Yeah.
But then I look back at how I live, and I'm like, how consistent was I
Yeah.
with that? And I would say maybe not to be too hard on ourselves. That's advice to both of us.
Yeah.
You know, because I think we're blessed according to the desires of my heart. I can honestly say that the Lord knows that I want to apply that principle.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is my desire.
Right.
How successful I've been, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. One question remember I shared with you my talk a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
One of the questions I think we should ask ourselves more often is, are we giving ourselves as much grace as we give other people?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Absolutely.
Because it's so easy to give that grace to someone you love when they're beating themselves up or something, to be like, no, like, but when it's yourself, you're like, no, I'm being an idiot. It's so easy to just kind of denigrate yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I hope you don't. I hope I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I
hope none of us do.
Yeah. I think,
that would be a tragedy.
Yeah. I think it is, but I think sometimes when you fall short, you can't, your default setting is to just blame yourself and to be hard on yourself, because you feel like, and you almost take pride in it sometimes, thinking like, oh, I have a high standard, I want to do well. And so if I'm not hitting the mark, I need to come down on myself. But just like you would with a loved one, you need to approach yourself with love.
Mm-hmm.
I think
hitting the mark is letting God know that you want his plan.
Yeah.
And that you're serious.
Yeah. And hitting the mark is just aiming at the mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's hitting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what more could I do as a 21-year-old return missionary?
Yeah.
I mean, I was just like I was not a great missionary.
Yeah.
I hear about great missionaries, and I wasn't that.
That wasn't me. I wasn't doing that.
That wasn't me.
Yeah.
One thing I did have is a desire to improve.
Yeah.
And when I came home, I didn't feel like I was anything special. But I feel like I hit the mark by telling God, I want your plan.
Yeah.
I want it really, really bad.
Yeah. That's
like
cool.
More than anything.
Yeah.
And I love that quote in the poem. If he knows that you want to know, you can be sure he will not let you make very many false steps.
Yeah.
And I knew that he knew that I wanted to know.
Yeah.
That was my security. That was my only security.
Right.
That's what I felt would make up for the deficiencies that my parents had, as immigrants, or my personal deficiencies, or my lack of self-confidence.
Yeah.
You name it, the list was just so long.
Yeah.
But I felt like that hit the mark.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy. And it's been an absolute lifeline, game changer.
Right.
So
that's awesome. Well, Jon, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Above all, I just appreciate your friendship.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Likewise, brother.
Yeah.
And your friendship to Spencer is just money.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I've told Spencer this, but I think like the friendship I have with him and Connor and some people in that friend group, the timing of it was nothing short of divine. I needed those friends when they came along, and the timing was perfect. And sometimes I don't know, like, I count among my biggest blessings in life are my friendships. I think I've been unbelievably blessed in that category, and I don't know what I did right to
That's
deserve
awesome.
them, but I just have them.
What a gift.
Yeah, yeah, it's
What a
amazing.
gift.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thanks for joining. If you loved the episode, share it. It wouldn't kill you. And yeah, do you have anything exciting coming out soon with your music or?
We are always putting stuff on Spotify every like month or so. We put out. I love writing music.
Yeah.
It's just something I really love. I love creating. It's just like making chips.
Yeah.
You know, that whole concept. And
do you
feeling
want
like the
to,
Lord takes it somewhere.
Do you want to? Obviously, I'm sure you don't want to like tour and everything for the rest of your life, but do you want to be writing, composing, making music the rest of your life?
I love it. I absolutely love the process.
Yeah.
It's like somebody that's always chipping away at wood and carving, and
Yeah.
and it's just something that you love. And I feel it. You feel, when you work through. I think everybody has their little spiritual gifts, and I feel like when we work through our spiritual gifts, or when we activate them, it's just, there's nothing better.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than that feeling, and whatever, when you feel like Heavenly Father is working through you, and that is fun. We are probably going to take a page out of Billy Joel's book, where he just, at one point he's just like, I'm just going to perform at Madison Square Garden every month, and let people come to me.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
Because he lives in New York.
Right.
And that's what he did.
Yeah, that's cool.
So we are probably going to shift a little more to that, where we just do most of our performing within like a 400-mile radius of home, and not worry about the bus tour, just pop out to do one here, and and just do a lot of performing within that radius, because people are people, and if we wear people out, then then hopefully other people will take their place.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Well,
but we will still do some touring, outside of that radius.
Yeah.
But that's been the latest, the latest discussion, and I really am excited to, when I was making albums, I never would have dreamed that the day would come that I would be able to create a 3-hour album. Because when I made an album, I always wanted to make it feel like a unified work of art. Like the whole order of songs was worked together sort of like a symphony, like with movements and stuff. And I never thought the day would come where I'd be able to do that, like a 3-hour version of that.
Yeah.
And call, they're called playlists.
Yeah.
But that's like my latest passion is I just want to put together playlists, super albums.
Right.
And the thing I love about that is they kind of stay young. They don't age.
Yeah.
Nobody puts a date on a playlist.
Right. Yeah.
So, that's a album from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
They don't, playlists kind of stay new.
Yeah.
That's something I never would have dreamed.
Yeah.
So I'm a real fan of this whole playlist concept, and to be able to go into an album and to like change the order, or add something, or revise it, or revamp it, or put new songs on it.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that whole concept.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's fun because like
people will check out our playlists.
Yeah, it's fun because like for me, I don't listen to a ton of instrumental music, but when there are ones that strike a chord, I throw them on kind of my one instrumental playlist, or I throw them on something that kind of fits the mood of that, and because I'm probably not going to sit down and listen to a whole Piano Guys album, even though like I've been to your shows, they're amazing, I love them, but that's just not
Yeah.
But it's like
Well,
you
everybody
said,
has their tastes.
yeah. But like you said, to be able to just plug in songs here and there is cool.
Yeah.
And, but yeah,
I put the Christmas playlist together.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, people love this on a Christmas.
Yeah.
Like putting up the tree for like 3-4 hours or whatever they're doing, decorating the house.
Yeah.
It was just really, really fun.
Yeah.
So that's my latest passion.
Awesome. Okay.
Exciting thing.
Okay. Thanks for joining, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I love you.